Hi there, my name is Michelle Hernandez, and today I'm going to be sharing my 4 little tips on being a successful beginning educator. And I am fully on board with the philosophy of teaching with intention. Just teaching with consideration, really. And so, yeah, let's go. For this opportunity, this was actually my first time working with kids. I never really had the opportunity to sit down and just conversate with a younger child prior to this opportunity, but now that I have, I am more comfortable with the idea of becoming an elementary teacher, and it really just improved my confidence for sure. So again, I had the opportunity to make and learn new friends in my third grade class, which is what I started off with, and that was a little easier than the kindergarten class that I have now, I'll admit, but I do love them the same. They are just so sweet. And for both of these classes, I observed for a total of an entire school day for this assignment. And then I went into these classes just with the intention on focusing how to better approach the idea of having students effectively learn and then later practically assessing them. Just assessing and having them learn with their consideration, within their learning styles, within their motivation. I'm sorry. And really, I just wanted to include the students in my curriculum and how I would or how I could teach a lesson, just how I can go about it. How can I teach them in a way that they'll know, and then how can I test them in a way that I know that they will be able to demonstrate their understandings. And so, what's been working so far? Oh my goodness. It's been a lot. It's been a lot of self reflection and a lot of just thinking. And after many pinky swears with my new friendships and just really a lot of check ins with students, I have came to just 4 good tips that I would share. And the first one is to just observe students' reactions. Observe their behavior, observe how they react, especially to something that you're saying, something that you're trying to implement. Maybe you're trying to manage the classroom, or maybe you're just trying to make a point across. Just observe how the student is reacting to you, because I really do feel like this is important, because, or considering that in the future classroom, it's just going to be you and them. You're going to have to take their word for how they're doing. You're going to have to take their word for how a lesson is being taught. And I just think that that's super duper important to understand. Not just to understand how you're doing, but to also understand your students. It allows you to take note of what is working and what isn't, especially in managing a classroom, and even yourself, like I said. So for sure, just observe their reaction, and sometimes they will even tell you just what they like and don't like. So yeah, number 1. Number 2, explore. Expand your perspective. I really love this one because I love switching the roles. Just envision yourself in the shoes of your students. Trust me, you'll see where they're coming from. Just if, let's say there is a student who just has no motivation to do the morning work. You sit down, they tell you a little bit about themselves. And then from that information, you're able to just, again, put yourself in their shoes. And you can just try to envision what is wrong. Maybe it's your teaching style. Maybe it's just not coming across to them in the way that they need it. this tip, I feel like, is just really important, and it can be done in such different ways. It can be done with just talking with the student. It can be done with observing the student. It can be done with just communicating with your peers. And I just feel that this is really influential in the state of how you can just approach how to make the student learn, or even how to test them, for sure. But just again, explore. And then the third tip that I would share is to promote interaction socially and within the materials of the lesson. I can't imagine students, especially elementary students, sitting in their seats for the entire day. It's not gonna work. For some students, it could, maybe, sure, but for majority, no. I believe that movement, especially in a younger class setting, is important because that is how you're going to actively engage them in the entire, not just lesson, but just engage them in paying attention to what you're doing. Because if you're promoting this activity or promoting activities, they're gonna just seek to you because you're giving out these opportunities for them to move around the classroom. And so, like in this cute little picture, you're the duck, you're the mama duck or daddy duck, and you're just leading them on. You're guiding them. You're guiding them through the lesson. You're guiding them through what they should know, what they should understand, and what they should demonstrate. And again, students are most engaged when there's movement involved. And then my fourth tip, but definitely not least, be considerate. Take a step back. Just remember, these are kids and they don't automatically recognize their learning style. Be mindful of this. And I feel like this could work alongside the expanding the perspective, because when you're considerate, you're understanding that you have to meet in the middle with these students. Otherwise it would just be unfair for them in the classroom if they were to notice, like, hey, I don't have a word, or hey, what about me? I don't think I'd want a student saying, what about me, in a classroom. So again, just be considerate. Be considerate in the way that you're teaching. Teach with your students in mind. Lesson plan with your students in mind. And test with your students in mind. Just be considerate of them, their style, their learning style, their motivations. Find out what that is, and be considerate enough to implement that in the classroom. Or really just be considerate of their time. Understand what time blocks they prefer and can work best in, and try to incorporate that in the classroom. Just really be considerate enough to incorporate your children in the classroom. I feel like that's important as well as a beginning teacher, because I feel that as a beginning teacher, you kind of go in with a mindset of how you want your classroom to be, because you've seen and observed other classrooms done this way. But I feel that just paying attention to your current students is going to be way more effective. Okay, and if as for my focus on learning, I felt myself, or I recall myself asking so many times, when I were to become a teacher, how can I get my students to take their learning seriously? Especially if they were to know that, hey, this is my first year teaching. How could I get them to take me teaching them seriously? Well, I feel that the way to do that is to provide as much motivation in the classroom as possible. Be considerate, again, find out what motivates them. Maybe that's prizes, maybe like candy, toys, or whatever. Just really go into learning theory, go into positive and negative reinforcements, play around with that in the classroom when you go to recess. Really just experiment, because how else are you going to learn? And if you don't learn that, then how are your students going to learn? I feel that that's super important to consider. And although it could be a little nerve-wracking or just difficult to approach like different motivations, and just researching that, it could be a whole lot. I feel that exploring and providing different motivations for student as a whole and as an individual really does pay off, because again, it shows that they're being considered. It shows that you're paying attention to them, that you consider them as equal in the classroom. And yeah, think that when they're reinforced and they see that, that's how you get them to engage in their learning. And then accessing students effectively. This was something that I am still pretty unsure of, because I just don't have experience in this too much. But again, there's no set way to do everything as an educator, and that includes testing. It's a learning of its own, just like teaching. And is it hard? Sure. Is it hard to learn? Yeah, sure. But is it impossible? No, it's not. And an important thing that I know about accessing, is to really consider fairness, also known as validity, and just testing accordingly to a fair and clear scoring guide, and that's reliability. I feel that paying attention to both of these elements in accessing students is super duper important, because again, it's considering every single student. You're considering the students that have a language barrier. You're considering the students that need help, extra help in learning. You're considering the students that are maybe advanced learners. Any of that, whatever. You're testing them in the way that they should be tested. And that is important, because I've seen a couple times in my observation where students aren't being tested effectively, and you just can't help but feel bad, because they don't understand what they're doing wrong, and it's nothing on them, but really it's just a case of them not being recognized, I fear. And again, or lastly, I should say, my little ending note, just keep on smiling. Education is a vastly complex and changing study, and through thick and thin, students will always trust you, and you can always trust them. Rather than sticking with a feeling of unsureness when it comes to teaching, remember that school is a learning facility, so take every experience as a learning experience to keep in mind. And really just have fun and communicate. It's contagious. Say hi to every student. They'll say hi. Trust.